Hi there, welcome to my views on news. Two news stories: secret conspiracy against Ethiopia. A secret conspiracy is being hashed against Ethiopia. Who said that? A top Ethiopian military officers who are plotting against Ethiopia. Details for you. Secondly, a Somalia's minister compared Ethiopia and Al Shabaab in a statement a few hours ago. Is Al Shabaab a bigger threat to Somalia, or Ethiopia is a bigger threat to Somalia? What did he say? He tried to prove logically which is greater threat to Somalia. Firstly, viewers, tensions running high in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopian military is being put on alert. Combat readiness of Ethiopian military is being enhanced. Combat readiness means that military should be prepared for all scenarios, worst case scenarios, that on short notice it should be in a position to mobilize itself. A top Ethiopian military officer today talked about some secret conspiracy being hashed against Ethiopia. Who is this officer? Did he mention those who are allegedly plotting against Ethiopia? His name is Lieutenant General Alimeshet Dagfe. Alimeshet Dagfe is a senior advisor to the Chief of Staff of Ethiopian National Defense Force. He's a general. Lieutenant General is a top rank in military. He was addressing graduates of a course at an Ethiopian military college. And there he said that Ethiopia is ensuring the combat readiness of its forces, of its military. Why? Because a secret conspiracy is being hashed against Ethiopia. This is the first time that we have heard in recent days from a top Ethiopian military officer about this alleged secret conspiracy. The general claimed that Ethiopian historical enemies were plotting against Ethiopia. Internal and external elements are plotting. They're part of hatching this conspiracy against Ethiopia. That is why Ethiopian military must be fully prepared. He did not name the countries, but whenever Ethiopia talks about historical enemies, Ethiopia means Egypt. To some extent, Eritrea too, though Ethiopia made peace with Eritrea in 2018. But when we say that an Ethiopian is talking about historical enemies, definitely talk is about Eritrea. Somalia too, maybe, and Egypt. Mainly Egypt, but now Somalia and Eritrea too. Because Ethiopia's relations with these three countries have deteriorated. And relations are worsening. No signs of improvement. This statement is coming from a top military officer in Ethiopia, showing that Ethiopian military is being put on alert. It is being told to be ready for any scenario. Now, for me, these developments are very alarming. Why? Because when more than a year ago, Pretoria deal was signed, we were hoping that now this region will see peace, and peace will lead to prosperity. It will lead to development. That Eritrea maybe will give some relaxation to youths. So for youths, military training is mandatory. National service is indefinite. We were hoping that Ethiopia also would focus on how to eradicate poverty, hunger, how to put an end to famine, drought. But Pretoria deal did not lead to all what we were hoping for. Rather, deal was not fully implemented. Eritrea Ethiopia relations soured, and then a new regional conflict unfolded a few weeks ago. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia talked about access to the sea. Regional countries rejected Ethiopian PM statement. PM Abiy signed an MOU with Somaliland, and that MOU led to serious escalation of tension between Ethiopia and Somalia. So it means that government will have to spend on military, spending on development, on creation of jobs, etc., is bound to suffer. Any one, and a student of politics and economics knows that defense spending is going to be the priority of Ethiopian military. Same would happen in Somalia too and in Eritrea. If a military is being told to be on alert, obviously military will demand funds. Military will conduct drills. It will demand more weapons. All the countries in the region will focus only on enhancing the capabilities of the forces, which is alarming for me. I'm not against establishment of institutions, defense institutions, but this region is seeing catastrophic humanitarian crises. So government should focus on how to eradicate scenarios caused by poverty, hunger, and natural calamities. But it seems that coming days, weeks, and months are pointing towards more defense spending by Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea. Secondly, viewers, a minister from Somalia today compared Ethiopia and Al Shabaab. Somalia is fighting Al Shabaab for years. Al Shabaab in control of one-third of Somalia. Al Shabaab wants to seize entire Somalia. It has claims to the parts of Ethiopia as well. International players helping Somalia in the fight against Al Shabaab. Ethiopian troops helping as well. African troops too. Kenya too. But suddenly, within 2 weeks, a new development has happened, and now now Somalia says that Ethiopia is a greater threat. This is what happened in the last 2 weeks. And after Ethiopian PM signed MOU with Somaliland, Somalia's government changed its position about how to respond to Al Shabaab and to Ethiopia. Now, the government believes Ethiopia needs to be dealt with first. Acting minister, foreign minister of Somalia is Ali Muhammad Omar. I think the foreign minister is in Turkey for some days. Some key talks underway there too. Somalia wants defense cooperation from Turkey to counter Ethiopia. Acting foreign minister is in Somalia, Ali Muhammad Omar. Ali Muhammad Omar today compared Ethiopia and Al Shabaab. He said that because of Al Shabaab, Somalia is unsafe. And there is instability in Somalia. But Al Shabaab is not a threat to territorial integrity and sovereignty of Somalia. It is not a threat to independence of Somalia. it won't affect Somalia's sovereignty. But Ethiopian moves are a threat to Somalia's territorial integrity and sovereignty and independence. That is why Ethiopia is a greater threat. Ethiopian moves are a greater threat to Somalia than Al Shabaab. So, a new narrative launched by Somalia's government. What does it mean? Does it mean that Somalia would take on Ethiopia first? It might scale down its military operations against Al Shabaab, but it won't let Ethiopia implement the MOU. That seems to be the case. Hassan Sheikh's speeches, Somali ministers, military officers' speeches indicates that Somalia has decided that it will not allow Ethiopia to implement the if it's if war against Al Shabaab suffers, no problem. But Ethiopia should not be allowed to set foot in Somalia. And maybe Al Shabaab will freeze its activities too. If there is direct conflict between Ethiopia and Somalia, military conflict, maybe Al Shabaab will freeze operations in Somalia, or Al Shabaab will turn towards Ethiopia. Alarming developments happening in this region, viewers. Or signs of de escalation and alarming narratives are being launched by people, by government officials, especially in Somalia, because Somalia believes that Ethiopia wants to annex its territories. Somaliland is part of Somalia. Ethiopia has no right to establish a base there and no right to recognize Somaliland as a country. Thank you for watching.